Hello, party people. Welcome to the virtual campfire. My name is Sydney Williams.
And I'm Barry Williams.
And together, no, I'm just kidding. And we are the founders and hustlers and hope slingers from Hiking My Feelings. And this is virtual campfire number 49. We are coming at you live from the ancestral territories of the Apache Pueblos, Hohokam and Hopi people, aka Sedona, Arizona. So that's not the ranch.
No,
What are we doing?
we are out where the rocks are red.
The rocks are red. Life is good. Welcome to Sedona. Mr. Williams, what have we been up to? So what we're going to do today, I'm going to kind of interview Barry because he's the man that makes the wheels go round. We are officially on the road for the Take a Hike Diabetes Tour. Oh, shoot. Well, let's do this. Hang on. Before we start interviewing Barry and talking about how awesome he is, let's talk about Take a Hike Diabetes because we had some big numbers this week. So we recently hit 11,000 miles. So now we're at 11,534 miles towards our million-mile goal. We have 146 participants. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for joining. And we've raised $10,735. Hallelujah. Thank you to our friends at UST, Solomon and Ross Chocolates for bringing awesome prizes and for making this challenge possible, helping us raise awareness for diabetes, all the good stuff. Couple interesting things about Take a Hike Diabetes. So we are running a contest called Take a Hike Diabadass to encourage people to join the Diabadass team on the Kilter Rewards. So if you haven't done that yet, join Team Diabadass. If you go to hikingmyfeelings.org/diabadass, you can enter the contest there. We're giving away more than $1,000 worth of hiking equipment. You don't have to have diabetes to win. You don't have to have diabetes to participate in the Diabadass team. Anybody that cares about anybody with diabetes, has been impacted by the disease, lives with it, knows somebody who has, you are welcome to join. We need all the help we can get to 1,000,000 miles. And we have prizes like the first 100 people that enter or get a sample from Untapped maple syrup. Great option to have on the trail. It's similar to like a honey stinger. It's just maple syrup in a packet. So if you feel your blood sugar going low while you're hiking, or you just need a little bit of an energy boost in the middle of a long hike, that's a great option for that. We also are giving away a Hiking My Feelings prize pack, which is a book, sticker, and trail journal. We've got sunglasses, we've got blue light glasses, and of course, for the folks that join Team Solomon on Kilter, they are eligible to win a pair of Solomon shoes and a backpack or 2 backpacks from our friends at Gossamer Gear and a tent from our friends at UST Gear. So enter to win. The contest runs through Sunday evening, so Sunday the 18th, and you can enter to win at hikingmyfeelings.org/diabadass. Okay, so now that that's out of the way, what are we doing?
We're just sitting in a van baking at the moment.
It's hot.
Yeah, we're in the desert.
We're in Sedona. So let's talk about week 1. So we had the retreat.
Yep.
It was awesome.
Yep.
We went to the Strouts.
Yep.
We house sat.
Yep.
We got some canine therapy.
Yep.
And then we hung out with the humans that actually lived there and extended our stay.
Right.
And then we left.
Uh-huh.
First stop, Yosemite National Park.
Yes.
How was it?
Tell
the world.
It was long. We did 23 miles.
Yes.
We saw the entire valley floor. We had done this before.
Yep.
We had done this in May of whatever year?
2019.
So it was a little bit different because this was mid-April, and I fully expected, well, when we did that hike originally in May 2019, we had to take our shoes off. We were crossing all sorts of stuff. We had to walk around the trail quite a bit because it was flooded.
Yeah. Record snowfall that year, and we were in the middle of the melt.
Yeah. So we expected, we better wear our Gore-Tex boots. We better be ready. We got towels with us in case we need to, walk across this stuff again, which is extremely cold, by the way. But that didn't happen.
None of it. Yeah, no, there was no flooding.
Oh.
There were no water crossings that required shoes being removed unless we wanted to cross the Bridalveil Creek, which our friend reminded us was not just a creek. It was the Merced River.
Yeah.
Tell him the story, Barry.
So part of the trail takes you across the Bridalveil Creek. In all reality, it's not that big of a creek to cross. That's tough.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
But it was just really cold. I mean, like beyond like the coldest water you're ever gonna get yourself into. So we're like, yeah, we still got, maybe 8 more miles to go. And I'm like, I don't really feel like getting my pants wet. Cause I mean, we could have rolled everything up, but we still would have gotten wet.
Probably knee, if not waist high.
So we decide to kind of go back to the road, just kind of go around it. And this big fella comes by and he's like, hey, does this loop around? And I'm like, yeah, it does. But, you got to cross a creek, and he's like, that's no creek. That's the Merced River, and I'm like, no, this is actually the Bridal Veil Creek that feeds into the Merced River, but by all means, continue your hike and get wet. And we went around.
So we went around, we went by our favorite spring, and what happened?
It is now considered non-potable water.
This is Fern Spring. So when you drive into Yosemite National Park, if you're coming in from one way, I'm not even sure which one, what to call it. Either way.
El Portal.
Yeah. If you're coming in that way, one of the first thing, once it splits into one-way traffic, so it's 2 lanes going one way. Once it splits that way, there's a spring called Fern Spring, which in 2019, when we visited, we'd fill up our water every day. It made some of the best coffee I've ever had in my life. That water did. And it's a spring that it just naturally feeds from the ground. It gets filtered through sand and moss. And there's a really cool interpretive sign that talks about how the Cahuilla and the Miwok Cahuilla's Joshua Tree, how the Miwok used to use that water as a source of life. And this whole thing about how great the water is. And now apparently they're putting in a sewer line, which makes anything remotely close to that spring non-potable because it's probably going to bust and there's going to be poop water all over the valley.
Yeah. So we were talking to a friend of ours that knows what's going on in there. And so that road that goes to Fern Spring is kind of all shut down on one side. And what they are doing is they're putting in toilets over at Bridal Veil. And Bridal Veil that fall was completely closed down, but they're building this new bathhouse or whatever, and the sewer pipe is going all the way down that road along the Merced and is actually going through the Pohono Bridge, which is made of concrete. So what's going to happen in the winter, and apparently this pipe is just a single pipe. So
like
single wall pipe. So when the everything freezes, because it gets cold there, or it goes through the granite and there's moisture in the granite and it swells, it's going to break this pipe. And what's going to happen is poop water is going to infest Fern Springs and the Merced River. So that's what we have to look forward to. So our engineering friend was suggesting to them, like, hey, why don't you at least, if you're going to do this, have like a double layer pipe and have a sensor inside. So if there's any sort of moisture or something, if it ruptures, that there's a problem and you can handle it accordingly. But, government being government is, they take the lowest bid contract and they have a single wall pipe. So that's going to break. And now
is this the project that they were promoting on Instagram?
I don't know.
Because if it is,
no,
and this is
it can't be that.
I was going to say, because if this is the solution that they picked over something like do good shit,
right?
I got a strongly worded letter to write.
Yeah.
Anywho, so that was that Yosemite Valley floor loop. So it's 20. We did 23 miles. They say it's 20, but it's 23. Let's be honest. We did the whole thing, and it's not 20. So it goes all the way around this Yosemite Valley floor. It passes El Capitan, Bridal Veil, Mirror Lake, which was not very mirrory this time around. Let's talk about the fun things we found on the trail, and by fun I mean disgusting.
Yeah. So the highlight of the trail was a pony. We saw a stuffed pony. I was happy about that. But we also saw all sorts of paper tissue or paper towel or whatever,
wipes,
with every single conceivable body fluid on it. All of them. All of them. Like, people are pooping on the trail. And even worse, they're bringing their children out there and teaching them this.
Yeah.
And they're leaving their used diapers on the trail.
Within eyesight of a trash can.
Yeah. So one was within eyesight of a trash can. The other one was like deep out in the woods.
Yeah.
Like, who's bringing a toddler 7 miles out into the wilderness
and then leaving a
used diaper on the trail.
This is my PSA to parents everywhere, and I'm not one, so take it with a grain of salt. If you can't if you can't pack out a diaper, don't bring your kids, or don't go on the hike, because the wilderness does not need dirty diapers. That's my PSA. I've got more of these. This has been a real week on the road. We're getting to see the finest that humanity has to offer when it comes to humans in the wilderness. So aside from poopy diapers, every bodily fluid on every absorbent surface that you could possibly wipe it on, and just trash. What were some of the highlights of that hike? I'll go. I didn't rage stomp for 7 miles by myself, so I win.
Well, it was interesting because Mirror Lake, again, isn't a lake. I didn't realize it's like a seasonal lake. Apparently, it generally isn't, but given what's going on with climate change and all that stuff, that lake is going to eventually go away, from what I understand. Yeah.
Really?
So we rolled up onto Mirror Lake. So there's a loop. So you pass it twice. The first time we passed it, we didn't even. I kind of joked. I'm like, "Is that Mirror Lake?" And it was perfect, bone dry.
Yeah.
And we kind of giggled and whatnot because it had been a while since we'd been there, so we weren't exactly sure if that was indeed Mirror Lake. So we go around to the other side and we pass it again, and there's a sign that says Mirror Lake, and again, bone dry. And so we kind of keep going, and there's some pools, and you can see the mirror effect or whatever, and we kind of keep walking down, and there's, we started this hike at 7 a.m, and we're 8 miles in at this point. And now we're starting to actually see people on the trail coming towards Mirror Lake from, was it Curry Village?
Mm-hmm.
And just herds of people. And they're all like, "Are we there yet?" I'm like, "Whoa, you're there. You're in Yosemite. This is great, isn't it?" Like, what exactly are you looking for? And like, Mirror Lake. I'm like, "Oh, it's up that way, maybe about a mile or so, but it's not very mirrory because it's more or less dry." And the looks on their faces were they weren't terribly excited about it.
Somebody turned the water off.
Yeah.
The water features did not get turned on that morning.
Nope. Slow start with COVID, I guess.
Yeah.
I got to reopen the park, let it fill up.
Right. Yeah. So we saw El Cap looking pretty. We saw some people climbing.
Mm-hmm.
We saw, Bridal Veil Falls was closed because they're doing some construction and building around there, adding toilets, etc. So I think my biggest highlight was that, one, I didn't get upset to the point of rage stomping around the valley for 7 miles while Barry trailed behind me. That's a win. And so I kind of reclaimed that trail in that way. And we got done. We had our ice cream that we always, I say we always, as if we go here like all the time. The 2 times that we've hiked around the valley floor, we've gotten ice cream because Christine Sharanian, who's one of my BFFs, requires that I send her pictures of ice cream in front of Half Dome. So I did that, fulfilled my duties as a friend. And then what? Where did we go after Yosemite?
Went through Kings Canyon.
Yep.
We drove through it.
Yeah.
Looked at some trees.
Yeah, let's talk about looking at trees.
Yeah. So we went to, our plan was, we didn't do a lot of the epic hikes.
Right.
Because there's a lot of snow. Like we didn't do like the stuff in the mountains in Yosemite. We didn't do anything in Kings Canyon and Sequoia. We went down to the foothills, and that's just because of snow. I mean, we were driving through areas that still had snow, and one of the campgrounds that we were going to stay at, you couldn't even get in because of snow. So we decided to go down to the foothills of Sequoia National Park and just do a early morning hike there on Sunday. So as we were driving through, we were like, "Oh, General Sherman. Let's go look at this big tree. Let's see what a big tree looks like." And that was short of Yellowstone. That was one of the worst experiences I've ever had in nature.
Yes.
So first, when you get to General Sherman, granted we were there at 2-ish,
noonish, I think. Yeah.
Middle of the day.
Yeah.
So, and it's a weekend, so I expected to be popular, but you couldn't even find parking in there. They had parking attendants and all sorts of stuff, like ushering people, and so we knew it was gonna be busy. The trail was down like 7,000 feet of elevation, and we go and check it. It's a really nice safe path. It's just generally a very pleasant place to be.
Yeah, they've done a really nice job of setting it up and protecting the trees and
Right.
making it accessible so people can see it without causing damage.
Well,
Allegedly.
maybe they should have put up razor wire fences. We get down there and it is just tons and tons of people. Tons. There's kids screaming. One kid peed his pants. And it was like going to Disney on a really, really hot, stinky day, so just kids yelling and screaming and people running all over the place. And it was just a line to actually see the tree. And it was pretty obnoxious. So we get there and the tree's pretty impressive. It's like 2,000 some odd years old.
It's 2,200 years old. And that's like 1,000 years younger than the oldest known tree as of right now.
Yeah. Allegedly.
So
we go and we take a walk around, and the tree is surrounded by this tall wooden fence. And what's the kid's name?
So this Brock Turner wannabe goes hopping the fence and hugs the tree. Now, for anybody that knows Sydney prior to Hiking My Feelings, you'll remember that I wrote a blog called Sydney Unfiltered. It's my Instagram handle still to this day for my personal account. And what that means is that Sydney doesn't have a filter. Now, most of the time, I can filter what comes out of my mouth. I don't filter my thoughts necessarily. And I try to keep it real. That's what the unfiltered part refers to. But this was one of those situations where I thought I said it in my head and the words came out of my mouth. So Brock Turner 2.0, just sit with that visualization for a second. Tall, blonde, beefy, young, stupid, arrogant, hopping over a fence, goes and hugs General Sherman, a giant sequoia tree, without General Sherman's consent. Out of my mouth, I go, "Are you for real?" And that is both the pitch and volume at which it came out of my mouth. Now, I thought that happened in my head. And then everybody in his party whips around and looks at me. And I was like, well, that came out of my mouth. Okay, here we go. And I was just really raging for the rest of my time there. Why? One, respect the fucking tree. There's a fence. Don't hop it. You didn't ask General Sherman for his consent. He doesn't want you to hug the tree. The Park Service is protecting this tree for a reason. If everybody hugged it, something would happen and the tree wouldn't be there.
They had designated hugging trees.
There are designated hugging trees in this park. Literally, you turn around and there are 2 trees that you can go and hug. 2. No fence, no nothing. Photo ops, the whole 9. So I'm standing there raging about Brock Turner humping trees. And his friend from his party's like, hey, you might want to rein him in, telling the lady that was the photographer for this delinquency that's being perpetrated on this street. And I just it was too much. We're on the way down, one, lots of crowds, people without masks. I'm vaccinated, but it still gives me the heebie-jeebies. We're not that far out of complete and total lockdown. So I'm getting used to existing in society. That's number 1. Number 2, parking. I'm not real good at waiting for it. Number 3, we're walking down the road and there's ample pet signs that say no pets. And what do we see? People standing in front of the no pet sign with their dogs while they're pooping. And they're probably not even going to pick up the poop, but I had to rage past them. So I don't even know if that's what happened. And then Brock Turner 2.0 hugs the tree. And then we're walking back up. And there is a really lovely paved path that is a switchback. So at 7,000 feet, to Barry's point, all the people that live at sea level that come visit these areas don't die on the way up. They made it so it's a nice graded, easy thing to walk up. And it specifically says, do not cut the ground between, stay on the path. Don't hop the fence. And then there's this whole family walking up the hill between the switchbacks. And I'm like, this causes erosion. You're not obeying the signs. And Barry's like, remember, you are not the police. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe I should be, because this is frustrating. So that was our experience seeing General Sherman.
So next park that we go to, I'll get you one of those little junior ranger vests.
Please do.
And you can wear that every time you go to General Sherman. You can get your whistle out.
I'll get my whistle. I'll wear my vest. I'll be a junior ranger and I'll get promoted quickly. Next, we went. So that was Sequoia. Then we went and we found, that was driving through like Kings Canyon, Sequoia. We found our parking spot. We had a great night's sleep. We woke up and we go to do our hike in Sequoia National Park. You tell your version of the story, then I'll tell mine because your hike sounded lovely.
It was lovely.
So tell them
delightful, in
tell
fact.
them a little bit about the hike and like what it was on paper and your experience of it, because you had a really nice time.
I really enjoyed myself. Yeah, it was one of the better hikes I've done in a while. And I figured out why. Is so
Marble Falls.
Well, yeah. So we're going up to Marble Falls in Sequoia National Park. We were the first people in the parking lot. Every hot tip, if you go into a national park, go in before sunrise. One, there's no lines. So if you have your national park pass, you don't have to deal with going in and showing your pass because the gates are open. You just drive through. But also you get, better light. There's nobody there. You get to collect all the cobwebs on the way to where you're going. And it's just generally pleasant. So because we knew this hike is very, very popular. We're going to this waterfall that is entirely made out of marble. I've never even seen marble in real life, like in the wild.
Yeah.
I didn't know it existed. I thought it was just like an Italian thing and they have a marble factory somewhere. I don't know. So
seven something miles,
yeah,
1,600 feet.
miles or something, 1,600 feet, which, I mean, that's kind of pretty close to what that Catalina first day was.
Yeah.
On a recent thing, recent retreat. So on paper, it seemed to look like there was going to be some effort required. So we brought our trekking poles and, we got our backpacks packed and our snacks and our waters and all that stuff. And we go up this trail and it's just, most of it's kind of covered. Some of it's in the open, but it's a single track. It's a proper single track trail. Like wide enough for those that don't know, wide enough for one person to walk at a time. So if you're passing by somebody, like somebody needs to get off the trail and you're on the edge of like a cliff for a good portion of this, for a ravine. So, it's kind of a little dodgy, and that's why I like to go early because there's just nobody there. And we were the only people up there, and I was flying up that thing because I had my trekking poles,
which you used to call.
I used to call them my getaway sticks, but now I call them my meditation sticks because hiking for me is a moving meditation. And I've been hiking with my trekking poles here on and off when the situation calls for it, but I haven't done it on a single track trail within recent memory.
I don't know that we ever have had trip where it was all single track like that. I don't know that we have.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I realized that I was having such a good hike because when you're on a single track trail, it really kind of matters where you put your feet because you got rocks and roots and there's just stuff to trip over, So you need to really kind of pay attention to what you're doing. And then you add trekking poles into it. So now you got 4 points of contact. So it really kind of matters where you're putting things, whether it's your pole or your foot, or it doesn't really matter. But like, I was so focused on where I'm putting my poles and my feet. It was just a full on meditation. And it was like nice and shaded. It was cool temperatures. There was nobody around. There was thread of bear. We didn't see any, but it was just a really, really pleasant hike. How was your experience?
I hated it. No, I'm just kidding. So the first part was awful. Like getting to the falls was horrific. And it's funny because I had written, I had like processed some stuff about hiking and how it's come into my life and what it's helped me with the night before. And in that post, I was writing about how my body moves at the speed, like my body and how I feel on a hike reflects my internal state. So sometimes I'm cruising, like my brain is clear, I'm open, everything's flowing and I don't feel stuck. And so my body moves at that speed. Like I could basically run. And then other times my brain is just overwhelmed. My head is full of thoughts. They're racing or the physical environment, there's too many choices. So like when we were hiking the White Mountains in New Hampshire, I was on full mental overload. Like the White Mountains, the section we were hiking, it was all boulder fields. And so you're walking over boulders and you have to like make sure that the things are sturdy and there's no trail markers. There's like painting on rocks. And so like that was a mental overwhelm for me because of the physical environment. This one, I've done harder hikes. We did Bright Angel in a day without poles in November, which is 18 miles with an elevation gain of more than like 5,000 feet. I've done a more difficult hike. This is 7 miles, 1,600 feet. On paper, this should not be one of the hardest hikes I've ever done, but emotionally, it was. And I was frustrated because it caught me off guard because I haven't cried like I cried on this trail in Sequoia National Park since probably Catalina in 2018. Like I've had some moments between Catalina 2018 and Montana in 2019, because Montana, the Highline Trail in Glacier National Park, August 2019, was the first hike that I had been on since Hiking My Feelings was a thing where I didn't process some emotion to the point of crying waterfalls out of my face. And so this hike on paper shouldn't have been that difficult. My life right now, not entirely difficult. So I wasn't really sure what was going on, but I just stopped and like I bent over like I did on the Trans Catalina Trail time after time after time on that last hike. And I just bent, like doubled over, panic attack face, like silent sobbing, just like screaming with nothing coming out and just waterfalls. And I'm like, and again, I was just blown away by how that's possible for me and the insights that come flooding in after that event happens. Like I know what I was thinking about and I know like what made me feel that way. And for the first time ever in the history of Hiking My Feelings, that's an experience I'll be keeping to myself, and the thoughts that were going around that experience I'm keeping to myself. So pay attention for a book in the future maybe, but like that was one of the moments where I was just like, oh, this process is real, it does work. And also I am so it affirms something that we had been talking about, I believe, at the retreat in Joshua Tree. Cassie came out for that, and she has said in her bio for her blog, So Long as It Is Wild, that tree canopies are a love language of hers. And we were talking about that, and I said, when it comes to Hiking My Feelings, if I'm on a trail with a tree canopy, I feel more protected and I feel like safer to like explore these emotions and to have them come up and allow that energy to move through my body. In this trail in particular, it was single track, so it was just me and Barry. And we're not walking together and we have to be in front of or behind each other. And then there was tree canopy for most of it, and we were the first people in the parking lot, so I knew that there wasn't anybody else on this trail. So I just like let her rip, and it felt like I had been holding this in for forever. But in my like everyday life, day to day, that doesn't feel like the case. So it was a really interesting experience for me, but further confirmed my theory that for me, when I hike, if it's tree canopy and protected and we're the only people out there, especially if it's single track and I'm not like walking by anybody, that's where I feel safe and protected and held. And that's where I can process emotions. Most of the hikes we've been doing since we've been home have been big open sky. So like Southern California, not a lot of tree cover. When we were in Yosemite, even, that was a lot of like ravine hiking and canyon hiking. So that wasn't like wooded. There was some wooded stuff. And then Joshua Tree, obviously big open expanse of sky, not a lot of tree cover. And so when I have these big, huge open sky things, like that's more of like a brainstorming environment for me, and that I can think big thoughts and I can like process what we're doing with Hiking My Feelings. And it's more of like big picture thinking. Whereas like tree canopy and coverage, like it makes me feel cozy and held and safe. And then I'm like, oh my God, these are all my feelings. So it just kind of caught me off guard. One, because we haven't done a hike in that kind of environment in a really long time. And two, because I wasn't expecting those emotions to come up, because like I'm in therapy now and I've been being real good about feeling my emotions, but apparently there were some that just like needed to escape my body. And so the thing that was interesting though is like, I know what I was thinking of, I know what I was crying about. And when Barry asked me how I was doing, he's like, so what's going on? And I was like, I'm just remembering how awesome I am and how awesome this is. And that wasn't me not sharing with my husband. That was true, because like what was happening was my body was just like releasing all this like old stuff that doesn't need to be there anymore. And in its place is the ability to like feel more comfortable being myself with my purple and blue hair. So my experience to get to the falls, a little rough. And then on the way back, like we sat at the falls, I had my tea, we had some snacks, we did some photos, we saw the water. It was lovely. I got a hug. Life was grand. And then the way back, I was like, I love hiking. This trail's amazing. I'm having so much fun. This is wild. So that's my experience on the Marble Falls Trail. Yay.
Yep.
So that's what it's like to hike with Sydney and Barry. Barry will have the best time ever, and Sydney will be crying her face off. And sometimes that's just how it goes. So then after Sequoia, what did we do? We went to Burbank.
Yep.
And we hung out with Michelle and Emily.
Yep.
And it was awesome.
Yep.
And life was grand.
Yep.
And we had some of the most bomb Indian food.
Yep.
And just excellent conversation.
Yep.
Wonderful company.
Yep.
More canine therapy.
Yep.
And if I forget anything, Harry Potter marathon.
Yep.
That was cool. It was nice. So normally, and this was also a new experience for me, being on the road again is weird, and we'll get to that in a second. But usually, so when we've been on the road and we're out in the wilderness and stuff, like we don't, in 2019, we weren't able to get a lot of work done in motion. So we would stop and we'd like spend a day at the library, or when we'd stay with friends that have Wi-Fi, I'd be like, hi, nice to see you, thanks. And then we'd be like on our computer the whole day. And so there was a little bit of planning that happened on Monday before we left on Tuesday, but for the most part, we were like there and present and not getting work done. So that was an interesting part of it too, where like I actually just allowed myself to do nothing. And that felt really nice. We watched Netflix, we had snacks, we went and took the dogs for a walk, and it was just like, it was perfect.
Yeah, it was good.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
So now, yesterday, we hiked around Joshua Tree.
Yes.
And there are some lessons to be shared there from a navigational and safety perspective. You want to talk about our hike yesterday?
Yeah, so we're on our way into Arizona, into Sedona. We took the 10 east, so it brought us on the south side of Joshua Tree. Generally not I prefer the other side of the park.
Yeah. More to do.
For a multitude of reasons. You got Pappy and Harriet's. You got the Joshua Tree Saloon.
We can go say hi to Kevin.
All sorts of good things.
National Park
that
Association's
side.
over there. Yep.
I mean, it's a big park. So, but we're on the south side. We found a really cool camping spot. Everything was cool. So we had done some hiking there on the southern part of Cottonwood Springs. Is that Cottonwood Spring? With K-Bong on Thanksgiving, actually. So we had done the Mammoth Mine and some of the cool stuff in there. But there really isn't a ton of hiking on that part. But we did find a 13.5-mile hike out to this well in Eagle Mountains and stuff. And I'm like, well, let's do it. It's 13.5 miles. And I heard there really isn't a trail and it's kind of just navigating. But we're professional athletes. We should be able to handle this. So, we start early, 7:00, somewhere in that range, fully loaded with snacks and water. We're good to go. We're dressed appropriately. We got, our hiking boots, Gore-Tex so if you're hiking in the desert, don't wear shorts.
Right.
Make sure you got proper shoes on, because you are going to get stung, bit, or stuck with something.
Yeah.
Something is going to go break the skin barrier.
Yeah.
At least once, if not multiple times. So, but yeah, we had nice tall hiking boots on, and we just hiked for what ended up being 14 and change through beach sand.
Yeah.
Through the desert with no real navigational, there was no trail. This is a cross country, you're just wandering the desert. So there's washes and there's boulders to cross and all sorts of stuff. And I can see how people die out there.
Yeah.
Very, very easily. Because if you don't have enough water, you don't know where you're at, because there's really no landmarks. Everything looks the same. You can't I remember that cactus. I need to take a left at this cactus, because you're going by thousands of them at any given point.
Yeah.
And it just, everything looks the same. And it's just the weather was really, really good for us. It was mid 70s. So it wasn't too hot, but it was fully exposed. And we got out there and, we sat and had lunch and just kind of hemming and hawed about it. And we're like, saw some old mining equipment, but there really was nothing out there. I mean, when we sat on top of that mountain, there's nothing. Like, you couldn't see any roads. You couldn't see any people. We didn't see anybody else out there. And if somebody had gone out there unprepared, not comfortable with navigating through a desert like that, their phone dies, whatever, unprepared, you're going to die out there.
Yeah.
No question about it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing there.
Yeah. It was pretty wild.
But we did find a really cool spot to like chill out and catch some sun. Like, there was this big giant boulder and there was overhanging another boulder and there was like this kind of makeshift cave type thing.
Yeah.
And there was animal bones in there and all sorts of stuff. So that was nice.
And we got to see some cool rocks, and desert hiking is its own experience. It's not my preference, but I enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. It is nice, but it's kind of nice if you're on the other side of the park, because there's like broken down cars and there's like mills and mines and just cool stuff to see. But we were in the park where there's nothing but rocks.
Yeah.
Pretty rocks.
Yeah.
But rocks.
But like, and barely any animals. That's how far out we were.
Yeah. Even the animals didn't want to live there.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw some sign of deer and mountain lion and jackrabbit. We only saw a couple jackrabbits, a couple lizards.
Yeah.
But other than that, nothing else. No turtles, no deer.
Yeah.
So, but that was a fun one.
So what do you parlaying that into? There was a hiker that was recently rescued from Angeles National Forest.
Yeah. So if you're on the Mighty Networks, I posted that into the Summit Circle group. If you guys want to, I don't know if I want to ruin that. I want them to actually. All
right. So if you haven't joined the Summit Circle yet, go to hikingmyfeelings.org/summit, read about it, join it. Barry hosts a meeting about safety and planning, and he posted an article about this hiker that went missing in Angeles National Forest, and we're using that experience as a lesson or as an opportunity to share about like how that could have been avoided. So if you haven't joined yet, go join, answer those questions, and Barry will talk about it in class on Monday.
Yeah, or we can discuss it on the forum or whatever. But
yeah,
anywho, long story short, the guy goes out, he goes hiking and gets himself lost. His phone dies. He manages to fire off one last message saying, "I love you if I don't make it," with a picture of his legs looking down at these other mountains. And so some dude who has this hobby of just finding out where pictures are taken,
which sounds a little creepy.
Yeah, it sounds a little odd. But apparently, so this random dude saw the story and he's like, I'll figure out where this guy is. So he's like, okay, given he's kind of in this vicinity and this is the terrain and he figured out. So he ends up calling the police and said, hey, search and rescue. Hey, why don't you send a helicopter over into this area and see if you can see anything? Because I think that's where he's at. Sure enough, that's where he's at. But I guess he had been out there for a while and he's like, it's just, whatever. So a lot to be learned from it, how to prevent it, what went wrong and what went right. We can discuss that either in the forum or on Monday on my call.
Yeah. Boom.
Yeah. So there you go.
So now we're in Sedona. What are we doing?
Vortexes.
So
we're
vortex hunting. So Barry is the tour manager. He makes the wheels go round. We've talked about what we've done so far for week 1 as we make our way to New Mexico next week to hang out with Mike Joyce as he gets started on the Continental Divide. If you don't remember, Mike Joyce is at sweet.hiking on Instagram. We had him join us for our Diabetes Awareness Month virtual campfires where he talked about through hiking and long distance hiking with type 1 diabetes. So he is hiking the Continental Divide Trail. That's where we're headed. But right now we're in Sedona. So talk to everybody a little bit about our plans for Sedona and how you plan our trip.
Well, I've never been to Sedona.
Right.
So we were going to go by Pahonix.
Yep.
And
that's Phoenix for the non-locals.
Yeah. So it's a short trip north from Phoenix. So we have some time, so we figured we'd go check it out. And there's some amazing hiking out here, and we just kind of pulled in, and it looks amazing.
Yeah,
like it really is.
We literally just got to town. We showered. We've seen some rocks that have red stuff on them, and we're at the Sedona Library coming at you live.
Yeah. So, how did I pick this? So I have a long hike planned, a nice long loop hike, but I also want to do some of the shorter stuff, the more iconic stuff. We're going to Devil's Bridge, and we're going to the Birthing Cave tomorrow. However, one of the locals that's going to go with us, Paul Folk, he suggested that after we go to the Birthing Cave, we go to Boynton Creek. He said he thinks it's the prettiest trail in Sedona.
Oh, nice.
But that there is also a vortex.
Tell them about the vortexes. What does this mean?
I don't know exactly what it means, but apparently Sedona sits on these weird grid lines, energy lines or whatever, or who knows if there's like quartz under the ground or whatever the situation is. But apparently Sedona is known as this healing place. It's a super hippie community. There's all sorts of stores with crystals and rocks and all sorts of hippie things that Sadie likes. But apparently there's these things, these vortexes, and depending on which articles you read, there's either 4 or 5 or 7 of them. And we're going to go check it out. So apparently what you do is you go sit in these specific areas, and what it does, it amplifies your emotions or whatever. So if you're feeling like love or whatever, you end up feeling euphoria is what it was described as. And people go there to meditate, and there's all sorts of like, alternative lifestyle medicines here, and we'll see. So if we get, and it's also a dark sky community. We may see some UFOs. Apparently there's a lot of UFO activity. They like vortexes. So yeah, we're going to go do some shorter hikes, some more popular ones, and we're going to do some long stuff, and we'll go see if we get abducted.
So if we don't make it to next week's campfire, or if we look a little funny, just know that we probably got vortexed.
Well, they see your hair. They may. Yeah.
I might not even be here because I'm an intergalactic unicorn now. So if I don't make it back, Barry, you can take over the show.
Well, nobody's going to tune in.
Right. Okay. So next week we are announcing winners of the Dia Badass giveaway. So you can hang on. Laura said something funny. She makes me laugh. Take a picture and that guy can find you. Oh, perfect. Yes. Brilliant. We'll take a picture and the dude that found the dude in Angeles National Forest can find us.
That's true, yeah.
These are my feet. Love you in case I don't make it. Yeah. So next week, we're announcing winners of the Dia Badass giveaway. Again, if you have not entered yet, you do not have to have diabetes in order to win. If you're impacted by this disease at all, whether you know somebody, love somebody, care for somebody, or you yourself have diabetes, everybody's eligible to enter and win. We're in this to raise awareness for diabetes. So you can join at hikingmyfeelings.org/diabadass. And next week we have Brett from Roots of Creation and our girl Aya Saruta, who is one of our writers who's helping us really ramp things up on the diabetes side for the stuff that we share on the Hiking My Feelings blog. So and next week is virtual campfire number 50, and that is the last one until we get to Chicago. We are taking the last week of April and the month of May off from the virtual campfire so we can get stuff ramped up for Take a Hike Diabetes. Our first stop is June 1st through the 20th. We're doing the Chicago Outer Belt, which is a 220-mile trail around the city of Chicago in partnership with the Chicago Outer Belt Alliance. And our first campfire is June 3rd, and that's my birthday. So campfire number 51 will be picking back up on June 3rd.
You want to talk about Take Hike Diabetes Day?
Should we talk about it?
Give them a little taste.
Okay, so we are talking with our friend Terry, who is working with the Michigan Trails Association for our Michigan hike. And he historically, in his past lives, has organized cross-country bike rides to end poverty and has raised millions of dollars doing this. And so he is obviously like super connected to what we're doing from that perspective, like a nationwide thing that's encouraging people to get out for a cause. Terry has an affinity for that. So I was on the phone with him the other day and he's like, Sydney, it sounds like you're doing what I did when I first got started. And I was like, what's that? Being awesome, Terry? Because that's what we're up to. And he was like, yes. And maybe a little bit naive. I was like, ooh, go on. And so he was like, it's cool what you're doing. And I loved everything about it. It's awesome to be out there for months at a time, encouraging people to get out and do all this stuff. And also, that's really hard to scale because you're just one person. And I was like, you know what, Terry, you're right. I'm one person and I can handle a lot of things, as is evidenced by everything we've done so far for Hiking My Feelings. And also, I'm starting to run up against my limit of what I'm capable of, I think, in one given period of time. Go on. And he was like, well, what if it was Take a Hike Diabetes Day? And I was like, oh. And he was like, yeah, you could get people out all over the world, millions of people hosting hikes all over this planet for diabetes awareness on one day. And I was like, now that is something I can get behind. One, and we went on to learn about how for people to fundraise is a lot easier to wrap your head around one day than a whole year long thing. For sponsors, same thing. From a media perspective, like a lot of really cool coverage can happen from a single day event versus like dragging things out throughout a year. So we're just really excited. Like, obviously this doesn't change anything for this year. We're still going and doing everything we're doing this year in an effort to ramp up for now Take a Hike Diabetes Day. So the first ever inaugural Take a Hike Diabetes Day. Are we giving a date or are we just
no?
Okay.
Not yet.
It's coming up soon.
However, if you'd like to host a group hike.
Yeah, if you're interested, because we've had a lot of people, whether we were on the road or people in the community, in the Hiking My Feelings family, that have expressed interest in hosting a hike with their friends and family locally. If that's the case, if that's you and you'd like to host a hike for Take a Hike Diabetes Day, send us an email, hello@hikingmyfeelings.org, and let us know. And then we can start to get things coordinated with volunteers and getting hikes hosted. But it is going to be this fall. It's before the snow starts falling, fingers crossed, for most of America. So we'll have more information about the date and how you can get involved in all that later. But if right now you're like, ooh, I want to host a hike, I want to get people out and hiking for diabetes awareness, then send us an email, hello@hikingmyfeelings.org. Good?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else? Any other fun updates?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Not that I'm aware of. All right, cool. Well, if you're on the Zoom and you'd like to share what you're thankful for, we'd love to close this out with a group gratitude circle. So go ahead and pop on your camera, unmute yourself. It's so nice to see your faces. I really miss everybody since Blaze Your Own Trail to Self-Love has ended. This is such a good crew. Here we go. Yay. Hi, everybody. There she is. There she is. Yay. All right. Well, Barry, you start. What are you thankful for?
I am thankful for cheaper gas prices.
Yeah. Oh, tell us about it.
So yeah, we left California and lo and behold, sub $3.
Yay. I'm happy about that too. I'm thankful for technology and just the ability to do work on the road. I mentioned that it was difficult for us to get stuff done while we were in motion in 2019. And now, since then, 5G service is a thing. Our phone plan, like now we have unlimited hotspot stuff. So it's just like, we're just crushing on the being able to do things with like this phone and syncing this to my computer. So I'm thankful for the technology that allows me to meet with people while we're driving in really weird places. And keep this show moving. So, and I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful that we work so well together and that we were able to like haul ass as much as we did for the last 8 months so we can like go do this now.
Who's going to get you an all beef hot dog from Costco?
This guy. Yeah. All right, Laura, what are you thankful for?
Well, first of all, I must say it's a good thing you got your vaccine so that you can get your 5G, so.
Yeah, it comes in a lot better now for some reason.
Like,
right. Anyway, I am thankful for just life in general. I've just been in a good mood. I'm going to North Carolina soon. Tomorrow, I'm going to head out for a few hours. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to see these folks, wrap my arms around those.
It. I want to see I want to see like the slow motion run for grandkids. Like, I'm ready.
I will document somehow and share it, definitely. So I got one more day of school, then a week break. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful for family. So yeah.
Yay. Maureen, how about you? What are you thankful for?
I am so thankful for other people that get so upset about trash in the environment like you guys do, just like me. So honestly, that is extremely nice to hear tonight. So I definitely am thankful for that. There needs to be more of us out there.
Yeah, I was thinking about you, and I was like, when we were walking by diapers, I was like, I Revive Seas could have like an offshoot of I Revive Parks. And then I was like, nah, like there's no art to be made of a dirty diaper. It's just not a thing.
Some things just have to be left, like honestly there.
Ashley, how about you? What are you thankful for?
I am thankful that on Tuesday I got my second vaccine.
Fantastic. Awesome.
So one step closer to hugging literally everybody.
It does feel nice to have hugs. I will say that it is a perk.
I was talking to one of my clients, and she is one of our clients that usually travels like 6-8 times a year. And she's gotten her vaccine, and we're finally starting to rebook some of their travel. And she and I were talking, and I was like, Charlotte, I'm going to get one of those free hugs shirts and literally just like stand in the middle of all of the people and make them hug me.
That sounds like an excellent plan. I like this. Because you're like making up for lost time. It's
exactly.
We need it. Yeah.
Well, fun fact.
Yeah.
The average human needs 10 hugs a day.
Yep. We learned that.
Apparently.
Yep.
I got a lot of making up to do then.
Yeah, same. Do that math. So for everybody on YouTube, we're going to wave goodbye. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week for virtual campfire number 50 with Brett from Roots of Creation and